Hey everyone, this is Mukesh Otwani once again from learn-automation.com. Today in this video, we are going to talk about function in Python. Okay, so till now, whatever videos we have discussed, we discussed about some pre-inbuilt functions, right, which comes with Python. So today we'll talk about what exactly is function in Python. So this is the high level agenda for today. We'll talk about what is function, how to create a function, how to call a function, how to call a function which will return you some values. So we'll talk about the return keyword. Then we will talk about creating a function with some different argument and creating a function with default argument. Just a small disclaimer before we start this video that do not get confused with methods and function. The moment we start working with OOPS concept, then you will get the clear difference between function and method. For the time being, let's focus on functions as of now, okay? We'll clarify your doubt once we move ahead. So what exactly is function, let's say? So function is nothing but a set of statement, or I will say block of code, okay, which will do a particular task for you. So let's say you have, let's say 100 lines of code, okay, and that 100 lines of code you want to divide into some, I will say functions or small blocks. So that blocks we will call them as a function, okay. For the time being, we'll continue with functions. We'll talk about the methods as well. So these functions can be having a proper name, okay. So if you see this example, we can create a very meaningful function name, let's say driving, cooking, video creation. This is just a general name, but when it comes to programming, we will be writing function name which will actually tell us what exactly this function will do, okay. Let's say I will be creating one function, calculate EMI or check the results or get the value from our Excel sheet or CSV file. So whenever we will write a piece of code, we will surround them, or we will, club them into a function, and we can call them again and again. So what exactly function will help us, or why we are, creating function? So first of all, it will create a modularity. It means you will be having a big line of code, or let's say 100 or 1000 line of code, which definitely will not be useful, right? If you do not implement functions. The moment we say functions, we will be creating some modules. Technical words will create functions or methods so that we can reuse them. Okay, so once we start the programming, I will show you how we can reuse them, but it will increase the modularity. Okay, it will increase the reusability, and the main part, readability. If I give you 1000 line of code, you might not be able to read it, but if I break down that particular program into function, then it will be very easy for you to read. We will be creating multiple functions, and each function will have a proper name which will represent that what function will be doing. So just give me a couple of minutes and I will show you all these things, okay. So the main part, we can also parameterize a function. So the moment we start parameterizing our function, we will make these functions dynamic, okay. So we'll not hard code some values in the functions, we will parameterize, and based on the parameters, our function will behave differently. And we will also talk about return keyword. So functions can actually return the values using return keyword. So let's say you have created some function that will do some set of tasks, and you want to return some result set or some result from that function, so we can do that. So the first syntax which I want to show you is without any argument, okay. So if you see here, we have a def keyword, then we will give a space, we'll write the function name, pair of parentheses, colon, and we can continue with the set of statements, okay. The second will be with argument. So as I said, we can also pass the argument in the function. So as of now, in this example, I'm only showing you 2 parameters, but you can have n number parameters in the parentheses, and it will continue. Then again, set of statements that you need to write, followed with indentation. Now you can also have function with default argument, okay. So if you can see, param1 is like mandatory, but the param2, I'm also making some default values. It means if I don't pass some values for the second parameter, it will take the default value and it will continue. So don't worry, these 3 we are going to cover in this video, and the remaining 2 we'll talk about in the next video. So we'll talk about first without argument, with argument, and with argument with default. Now this is just a highlight, okay. Just want to give you what exactly we will cover in the next video. It will give you information about the different type of syntax that we are going to discuss. So this is known as arbitrary argument. Here, when you don't have the fixed number of argument, you can use the arbitrary argument, where you can pass n number of parameters and it will take all this parameter dynamically. Next one is arbitrary keyword argument. As the name says, here we will be passing the dynamic parameters when the number of parameters are not fixed, but here we will also pass with the keyword. Okay, so we'll talk about this in detail once we move ahead. As of now, just focus on the syntax. So let's create a function. So I will be using a keyword called def and give a space and give the function name. So let's say I want to create a function which will print some data. So since this is the first method which you are writing, I will call this method is hello world, pair of parentheses and colon, and hit enter. The moment you hit enter, you can see we got the indentation, right? So whatever we will be writing here, it will be considered within this function. So let's say I want to print some data here. Let's say hello Python. That's all. So this is one of the function. Now whatever you will write within this function, okay, you can see the indentation is applied. So let's say again I want to write, let's say by, or let's say again I want to write some more calculation. Let's say c equal to a plus b, let's say 10 plus 90, and I will say print c. You can see all will be considered within this function. Now the moment you run this program, okay, so just right click and say run as function demo1. You can see I did not get any output. Okay, the reason is we have created a function, okay, we have defined a function, but we have not called. So the moment you write function, you need to call them. So how do we call this function? You just need to come out of this indentation. Okay, so now we are back to our normal program. Now I will be writing the function that we have created. The moment I type HE, you can see I'm getting auto suggestion that hello world. Okay, now let's right click and run, and let's see what exactly it returns. So you can see the moment I run this program, I'm calling one function called hello world. So the control is coming back to this function. First of all, it's printing hello Python, which is this. Then it is doing the calculation, which is simply a basic addition. It is printing the data, which is 100, and printing by, right? So this is just a very basic function where I have not done anything. It is just some print statement and some calculation. This is a very basic function. Now let me create one more function. Okay, and this time I will say hello world, and this time I will accept one argument here. Okay, or let's use some other method. This is just a very basic one. So I will say again a new method called sum. So this function will accept, let's say, two arguments. So I will take two arguments, let's say a and b, or let's use some number 1, which is num1, and I will say num2, colon, hit enter, and you can see again indentation. Now we can continue with this statement. So what I will do, I will take one variable called sum. Okay, let's use the result for the time being, because we are using the same name. I don't want to keep you in confusion, so I'm using a different variable called result. So whatever value we will get in num1, we will just assign here. Then I will do some arithmetic operation. In this example, I'm just doing a sum. So whatever values we'll get, we will just do the plus and we'll have the result. And here I will simply say result is result. Okay, now if I want to call this function, what I will say sum, and you can see it is asking me the two values, which is num1 and num2. Let me give 10, 30. So when you run this program, first of all, it will execute this function, which is hello world, and it will come back here and it will execute this function. Then it will start executing sum function. So when you say sum 10, so 10 will be stored in this variable called num1, 30 will be stored in num2. It will do the operation, and finally it will give you the result. Let's run it once again. Okay, and you can see, so this is coming from the first function that we created, and this is coming from the second function, which is sum. So this is how you can pass parameters. Now let me do one thing. Let me just pass one argument and let's see what exactly it is going to return. Just run, and you can see it is throwing one type error. So if you try to read this, simply says sum1, which is a function, is missing one required positional argument called num2. Yes, because it is expecting 2, but we are passing only 1. So in this case, it is mandatory to provide minimum 2 arguments. So how do we fix this? That also we'll see, but for the time being, just focus here that we need to pass mandatory argument. Okay. Now, if you just keep this method, or if you just call this some function, not the method guys, within a print statement, let's see what exactly it is going to return. Let's run it. So can you see, we got the result, which is 900 plus 10, 910. Then it is returning none. So what exactly is none is, it is actually saying that this function which you are calling, it is not returning anything. The moment we call this function within the print, it says none, right? But if this function will return something, definitely we will get some values. So what we can do, using return keyword, we will be returning the value from the function. As of now, this function is not returning anything. Okay, so the type is none, but in case this function returns something, we will get the value. So let's modify this function. So what I will do, I will create a separate program. Okay, so that you will have this as a reference. I'm just doing the copy and paste here, and I will call this as function 2. So let's remove this function. It's not needed. That was the basic one. Okay, so you can see now this particular statement is throwing me error because it says it is unresolved reference because it is not able to find the function. Makes sense? Let's remove this. Now the next thing is, let's say I have one more calculation that I need to perform. That calculation is depend on this result variable which is coming from this function. For example, I want to have one final result variable. Okay, and here I will be adding, let's say 90, and I will be using the result which is coming from this function. So if I try to simply say result, you can see it is not able to detect what is the result. The reason is this result variable is only available till this function. Okay, so it means, let's say if I want to do some other calculation, let's say final data equal to result, I can access it easily because I'm in the same function. But the moment I try to access this result here, I'm not able to do that because it is coming inside a function. So what we can do, once we are done with our calculation, we can use a return keyword here, and we can return this result variable, which is result, and now this function will return us the data. So how do we store this data? So if you can see, still it is not able to resolve this because it is, even though our function is returning something, but we are not accepting into some variables, right? So what we can do, first of all, just remove everything. This time I will be calling new result variable, some dummy variable I'm creating, and I will call this function. I will use equal to operator, and I will be calling the sum function, and I will be entering some values, let's say 12, 34, and let's print this new result. So what will happen, the moment you run this program, it will call some function, it will pass 12, 34, it will print. Okay, so let's say if I don't want to print, what I can do, I can just comment this. I just want the print statement here. So it will do the addition, it will return the result. That result will be stored into this variable that I will use here. Okay, so let's right click, run as, and you can see we got here. So let's say I will just give some here that the value is, and you can see we will get the output value is 46 because now this function is returning some value. Let's modify one thing. I will just add as 90, and we got the updated value. Fair enough. So this is how you can retrieve the value from the function which is returning some value, and you can accept and you can continue. Now the next part is, what if I don't pass any mandatory argument, which we just saw, right? It was throwing error. So again it will throw us the type error. It says one required optional argument is missing. So in this case, what we can do, we can also provide some optional value here. Okay, which means I will make it as equal to some default value. In my case, let's say I want to have the default value as 0. It means if I pass some value, it will take that mandatory parameter and it will run. But in case if I don't pass, this 12 will be received in num1, and num2 anyways have the default value called 0. So just run this program again and you will see this time we will not get any error. It is taking the default parameters along with our mandatory parameter. We got 12. So in this case, if I pass 12 with 12 again, we will be getting the value as 24. Yeah, very cool feature, and this can actually help you when you don't want to pass always all the parameters. You can use the default parameters, right? What is next? Let's say I want to pass 4 parameters. So in this case, what if I simply right click and run? Now it says again same thing, that sum takes 1 to 2 positional argument, but 4 were given because 12 will be received here, 12 will be received here, but what about these two? In this case also, what I can do, I can pass, let's say num3 equal to 0, num4 equal to 0. So let's do one thing. First example, I will only pass 3, which is 12, 12, 34. So what will happen? 12 will be stored in num1, 12 will be stored in num2, 34 will be stored in num3 now. We are not passing the 4th, so this will be taking the default value. Let's run it. And okay, we did a small mistake that we did not add the num3. So I will just add num3 and num4 here. Yeah, and now let's run it. And you can see we got the final output 24 plus 34, which is 58. Since we have not passed the 4th parameter, it is accepting this one. So I hope you got the overall idea of default parameters. So till now we discussed about the 0 without any argument, or you can say 0 argument. Then we have seen the mandatory arguments. Then we have seen the default argument. We also have discussed about the return, how you can return the values. Now let me show you one more example. It's going to be very interesting, and we will be using this a lot once you move ahead. So let me create another file called function demo3. And let me remove everything. This time I will be saying again a new function, and hello, I will say greetings. Okay, I'm just giving greetings to the user, and what I will do, I will just take here 2 argument. So guys, just a small disclaimer, do not get confused with parameter or argument. They both are same. What we are doing now, I will accept one argument called first name, then I will accept the last name, and I will be just printing hello or welcome. First of all, I will be using first name, then I will be using last name here. Fine. So if I want to call this, I will say greetings, and let's say Mukesh, and I will say Otwani. Let's run this. Just double click here. Let's run this, and you can see it says Mukesh Otwani. Okay, we need to give one space. So what I will do, I will just add one space here. Okay, and let's run it once again, and you can see we got Mukesh Otwani. So what is the difference? This is what we discussed, but let me tell you, what if I change this order? If I just say this is Otwani, and what is this? Let's Mukesh. So definitely it will take welcome Otwani Mukesh. So let me show you another way to pass these parameters or the argument. So instead of passing directly, you can also mention that I want to pass the first name, which is going to Mukesh. Okay, comma, and now I can tell L name, which is already mentioned here, right? And I can say the last name is Otwani. So instead of passing this way, I can use this way as well. So let me just comment this, and let's run. You can see it says welcome Mukesh Otwani, because now this value is assigned to this parameter, which is f name, and this value is assigned to this variable, which is L name. Now just to show you, what if I change this, will it give the different output? No, because now we have bounded that I will be giving this value and assigning to this, right? So this time I have changed the order, but still the moment I run, I'm giving the same output, because now this value is linked with L name, which will be stored here. this is stored, this value is stored into fname, which is here. So based on your requirement, either you can go with this where you need to follow the exact sequence, in which sequence you are passing the parameter or argument, but here you just need to give exactly in which variable you want to store. Finally, let's do one more thing. I will say marks. Now if I say I want to store marks as well, marks, what should be the mark? Let's say 95. Let's change here as well. I will just say here marks and I will just say same 95. So now it doesn't matter in which order you give, it will always get the same values now, because these values are linked with these names, which is nothing but the parameter name, right? It is not printing here because we haven't given here the print statement. I will just say I also want to know the marks. Okay, now just run this. Okay, so it simply says you cannot concat. So what I will do here, I will just convert this into a string. This we have seen in the past, right? Now I can use them in the print statement, and you can see we got the value. I hope it is clear now. This is what exactly I wanted to cover. Now if you are interested, I also want to show you a different example where I will be passing list as a parameter. It will do the calculation and it will return as a list. Okay, so we'll pass as a list, do the calculation, get the values as a list, and we will process it using the same concept which I showed you just now. Okay, so just give me a couple of minutes. I will show you that example, then it will make so many things clear. So let me quickly create one more function, and this time I will make it as 4, and let me remove everything. So let's create a function. I will just use def keyword, and let me create a function called check even numbers. So I will just write check even numbers. Now I will be following one convention again. So I will be separating them with underscore. It will make it more readable. So check even number. Now we will do a small logic here. This logic we already discussed in our previous videos. We are going to use a mod operator. So let's say I'm getting one result variable. So this function will accept one argument called number or num1. So whatever number we will get, I will just do a mod operator and I will say mod by 2. If the result is equal to 0, then it's an even number. If it is not equal to 0, it's an odd number. For example, if I pass 3, mod 2 will get remainder as 1. That is odd number. But if I say 10, mod 2 will get 0, which is remainder, right? Then it's a even number. So once it is done, I will simply print the result. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's test. So I will call this function called check even number. I will pass, let's say, first 5. So 5 will be received here. 5 mod 2 equal to 1. Definitely it's not equal to 0. Then we will be getting a result. So what is the result? It's false. False means this equation is not true. False means it's a odd number. If I just make it 10, let's say we got true. Fair enough. So let me just create this method in an effective way. So instead of accepting one number, I will be accepting a list here. Okay, so let me give a list 1 because I want to get not one number. I will be passing multiple numbers and I want to check all these numbers are even or odd or not. Fine. Now what I will do, I will just create a dummy list. So I will just say I have a dummy list. So here I will say even numbers. I'm just creating a variable. So this variable is nothing but a list type. So I'm just creating a blank list. So in case if you're new to list, we already discussed about list, right? So I'm creating a list here, which is blank as of now. So whatever values we will get inside this list, first of all, I need to run a for loop, right? So using for loop, I will get all the numbers one by one. I will do the mod operator. If equal to 0, it means it's an even number. And then I will add that even number into this list. That is the logic. So I'm going to run a for loop. Again, if you're new to for loop, please go ahead and watch the for loop concept. I'm going to use one variable called A, B, C or X, Y, Z. Let's say X in. So whatever list values I will be getting, right? I will be passing here colon. All the values will be stored into x, right? So now I will say if x mod 2 equal to 0, it means it's a true, right? If it is equal to true, I want to add that number into this list. So what I will say, even number, and in the list we have one method called append, right? I will be appending this value, which is x. In case if it is not, then I will just write the else colon, and I will simply use the pass now. We don't want to do anything. I simply want to just, pass that statement. So this pass also we discussed in the previous videos. So this is one of the easiest logic where you will be passing a list. We will also have the empty list. We will iterate all the list one by one. We'll do mod by 2, mod 2. If equal to 0, it means it's an even number. Then we are going to just add that value into this list. If not, then simply pass. And I also want to return, okay, because we will get all the numbers here, right? So once we are done, I just want this even number list. So I will simply say return, and I will simply return this even number from here. Now let's call this function. So how do you pass the list? As we have discussed earlier, that whenever you have to pass a list, you need to use brackets, and you can pass the n number of values. So let's say I will pass some random values 1, 3, 4, 6 and 8. So as we know, 4, 6, 8 is even number, right? Let me add 32. Let me add 64. Some more even values. And now let me run this. Okay. So there's a small change that we need to make in the program, that the moment we call this function, it is returning this number, right? But where we are receiving? Nowhere. So I will say this is my result, which is nothing but a list. So I will simply go and print this result. And you can see we got all the even number from that list. So this is the list that we passed, right? 4, 6, 8, 32, 64. We got all the numbers. Okay, I hope it is clear. What if you want to simply reverse it? Okay. In that case, let's say I will just create another empty list called odd numbers, and here I will do opposite. Okay, here what I will say, if equal to 0, then simply do a pass, but if it is not equal to 0, then append all the values into this odd number list that we created. Yeah, and once you're done, we will simply return this. And now let's run it once again. This time you will only get the odd numbers, and you can see we have only 2 odd numbers, which is 1, 3. Let me add 99, let me add 87, and just run this program, and you can see we got all the odd numbers. So very easy program. It is just you need to understand the few things that we discussed. So here we have used a list concept, for loop concept, if else. We have used functions with return, right? So this is how we will be writing further programs. Now if I want to add further checks, okay, this is going to be just the last condition, don't worry. What I will do, first of all, I will check this result length. Okay, let's say I do not have any odd number. Okay, for example, I'm not passing any odd number this time. So what should be my result? It's a blank list, right? But I want to give some small condition, that if it's an empty list, it means if it is not returning any number, then it should print that this list is empty, no even number found or no odd number found. So I'm going to again use one if condition, and I will be using one inbuilt function called length, where this is the result, right? I will simply say result. If the result is greater than equal to 0, okay, or simply say greater than 0, then print the result, which is nothing but actually our final data, right? But if it is less than 0 or it's a blank, then I will simply say else and I will say sorry, no odd number found. Let's do one thing. Right now you can see the list which I'm passing is 4, 6, 8. Not even an odd number is present, right? So right click, run as, and you can see sorry, no odd number found. And if I just add, let's say 1 and 5, 2 odd numbers I'm adding. This time when I run, you can see we got the proper output. So this is how you can play with the programming. And what we did, actually we changed the logic, but we have not changed the method name. So let me change this method name to check odd numbers, because what we did is odd number, right? So instead of giving this method, I will say check odd numbers, and you will get the same output. I hope it is clear now. If you have any other question, please let me know in the comment section and I will be happy to assist you. So do not skip the next video, because that will talk about arbitrary argument and arbitrary keyword argument, which is actually going to help you a lot once you move ahead. Just to give you one example, if I open this length function, right? Can you see this? We have args and we have kwargs. What exactly they are, we will see in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, then please hit the like button, share with your friends, and in case if you're new to this channel, then please subscribe this channel, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.